I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. We'll be taking a look at those Kenyans that are making history not just in Kenya but even beyond our borders. We'll also be taking a look, sadly, at parenting students, another case of students found in Nairobi in alcohol and drug dens. We'll be highlighting these and other stories from across the region. Welcome to KTN Prime. Let's take a look at the top stories tonight. Wanted for terror. Police release pictures of 5 Kenyans.
Na tutaendelea na maombi kwa sababu tunajua maombi faida yake ni nini. Alisema kwamba maombi itaendelea. So when you see Duale speaking, when you see Kuria speaking, no, it is Uhuru speaking.
Leave us alone, Uhuru tells ICC as court blasts Jubilee over prayers for Ruto and Sang. In Ruto's defense, African Union asks ICC to reverse ruling on recanted evidence.
All of Africa, presidents, kubwa, and they all wanted to greet me, and I was very happy. I think I was supposed to be now because I was young enough and I had never seen such a group.
Remembering the great ones, the man who designed the African Union logo. Thank you for making the time to be with us tonight. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla. We want to start with news in today from the National Police Service of Kenya that has today released names and pictures of 5 Kenyans, among them a suspected female suicide bomber wanted over links with the Al-Shabaab. Now the suspects, as you can see on our super wall, include Shamim Wanjiru Hussein, alleged to be a suicide bomber. We also have Omar Patroba Juma, who's alleged to be Wanjiru's husband, wanted for attacking Baure military camp in Lamu in June. Then we have at the center of our super wall tonight Anwar Yogan Mok, who police say is a former footballer with Mathare United Football Club. He allegedly joined Al-Shabaab, a wing of the Kenyan fighters known as Jaish Ahman, in 2013. Now the other suspect is Omar Witi, who's said to have survived the Baure attack and fled. The 5th suspect is Ramadan Kioko Said, who is said to have joined Al-Shabaab in 2008 and who also survived that Baure attack. Police say they are all in Somalia but are planning to sneak back into the country for a mission, asking for any information on them, of course, and warning you to be on the lookout. That is the news coming in from Kenya as Kenya celebrates its heroes today. We want to go now to the matter of the ICC and the case against Deputy President William Ruto. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has dismissed the ICC gag order on prayer meetings, saying the court cannot stop the country from holding prayers. Uhuru was speaking during the celebration of Kenya's Mashujaa Day that is marked on the 20th of October every year.
William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Sang. The president was holding back no punches. Uhuru's position was that holding prayers was Kenyans' right.
Na sisi wa Kenya tuendelee kuomba, yani hawezi kutuambia hatuna nguvu ya kuomba. Sisi tunaamini Mungu na sisi tuko na uhuru wa kuomba na tutaendelea na maombi kwa sababu tunajua maombi faida yake ni nini.
The president warned those he termed as meddling in Kenya's affairs that Kenya should be left alone. Uhuru says despite the intrigues on the ICC front, he would continue to pursue the unity and integration of Kenya. He called on friendly nations to help Kenya in its geopolitical affairs.
Hata hawa ambao kila siku wanatutumia hii mambo ya ICC, kila siku ICC, wawachane na sisi, wawache sisi tuweze kuendelea na kujenga na kuunganisha Wakenya wenzetu. Na mimi nawauliza Wakenya, tusikubali kuchanganyishwa, tusikubali kuletewa siasa duni, tusikubali kupiganishwa, tuwajua sisi haja ya umoja wetu.
President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech was also directed at those fueling polarization and politics of hate.
Irrespective of our political affiliations, the regions we come from, the faiths we profess, and the communities we come from, work together to consolidate the peace and security of our country. Leaders must avoid reckless and inciting utterances that would undermine peace and cohesiveness. These can cause irreparable damage to Kenya's socio-economic fabric, and they, all leaders, must at all times strive to build a better Kenya.
The president warning that inasmuch as the constitution has broadened freedoms in the country, he was saddened and dismayed by what he called leaders' blatant abuse of their freedoms.
The time has come for us as Kenyans to promote a culture of truthfulness. We start sometimes to see how by our own actions we have seriously undermined our own moral compass. It is therefore important to act swiftly to regain the values that we have lost and that are critical for our future.
And the president delved into the issues bedeviling the National Youth Service with the promise to sort the mess out. Nonetheless, Uhuru says despite the misgivings at NYS, the program will be extended to all corners of the nation. Samugina, KTN News.
Even as President Uhuru Kenyatta defended the prayer meetings, the Kenyan opposition CORD criticized the president over his remarks. The coalition insists that the president is the one who ultimately holds the key to freeing Ruto from the clasp of the ICC. The politicians challenged the president to have the vocal member of parliament Moses Kuria arrested, claiming that Kuria was Jubilee's pawn in the chess game meant to dupe Ruto.
I'm fed up with your rhetoric. Wewe leo unakuja unajaribu kujenga chuki kwa taifa la Kenya, unasema Ruto alifiksiwa na Raila Odinga. It is well known Raila was incapable of fixing William Ruto. William Ruto katika ushahidi wake mwenyewe katika ICC, ushahidi wake mwenyewe wa William Ruto ndani ya ICC, amesema wale watu ambao waliomfix, alisema ni Nancy Gitau, alisema ni Mutia Iringo, akataja majina kadha wa kadha. If Ruto wants to know the truth, please stay with the story of Iringo, story of Nancy Gitau, the story of Gishangi. Tell the president to write a letter today recanting Exhibit 19 and 19A.
You are surely spoiling the case for one William Samoei Ruto. Ruto, wake up. I once told you that wembe ni ule ule. Wembe ndugu zetu kutoka hapa waliotumia kunyoa Michael kijana wa Malo, wakatumia kunyoa Raila Odinga baada ya Raila kusema Kibaki tosha. Nilikuambia wembe ni ule ule, wewe utanyolewa.
At the International Criminal Court, the African Union has filed its opposition to the ruling allowing the use of recanted evidence against Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang. As a friend of the court through lawyer Charles Jallo, the AU Commission has asked the court to overturn the ruling based on newly adopted Rule 68. The AU argues that using the recanted evidence is likely to lead to the violation of Ruto and Sang's rights. The Commission also admits that when the African continent supported the adoption of the new Rule 68, they never expected the rule to be used against African leaders in current cases at the court. All right, we want to move on to another matter which has been a topic of debate in Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta called upon legislators to review clauses of the Powers and Privileges Bill which are offensive to the media. The president cautioned members of parliament against passing laws that are counterproductive for the democratic and media gains achieved in the past 2 decades.
Will as many members as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many members as of a contrary opinion say nay? Yes. The nays have it.
The battle to defend the ever-decreasing space of media freedoms got a high-profile support as Kenya celebrated her freedom heroes. President Uhuru Kenyatta urged Kenyan lawmakers to remove offensive clauses in the Powers and Privileges Bill 2014.
Yastahili ya kwamba zile sheria ambazo tuapitisha ziwe zinalingana na katiba ambaye sisi kama Wakenya tumeipitisha. Kwa hivyo na wauliza wairudie, waiangalie tena, watoe hizo sehemu ambazo zauzi katiba yetu na tuweze kuendelea. Hatuwezi kuogopa uhuru wa watu kusema yale ambao wanataka kusema. Lazima tulinde, lazima tuhakikishe ya kwamba Wakenya wote wako na uhuru wa kusema.
The President's utterances come just days after Parliament approved contentious clauses in the Powers and Privileges Bill. The two clauses, 34 and 35, propose a fine not exceeding 500,000 shillings or a jail term not exceeding 2 years or both for journalists and civil society activists found guilty of defaming Parliament. The approval of the bill by the National Assembly has been met with condemnation not only from the media fraternity.
What are members of the National Assembly so afraid of? Is this an attempt to shield members from scrutiny by the very people who put them in office?
In the spirit of Mashujaa Day, Nyeri Senator Mutahi Kagwe asked members of Parliament to be heroes fighting for the freedom of the media.
The freedom of the media is crucial for development. So we want heroes who can defend the freedom of the media.
Senators have resolved to reject the draconian media laws. The bill, which touches on the powers and privileges of both houses, must be sent to the Senate before it is presented to the President for signing. The MP's move to approve the bill comes in the backdrop of allegations that have previously tainted Parliament and ethical concerns touching on MP's conduct in and outside the House. Critics have termed the move to silence the media as a plot by MPs to cover up corruption and misuse parliamentary privileges. On Thursday, National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi ordered the bill to be withdrawn and returned to the committee stage for sober consultations before going for the third reading and ultimately the final vote. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
Police in Kenya today raided a Nairobi bar and arrested over 200 minors drinking alcohol. Following a tip-off, officers pounced on the Jerry City discotheque situated on Dubois Road in downtown Nairobi. Witnesses say some of the students were found with alcohol and rolls of bang. Confirming the incident, Central OCPD Paul Wanjama said the 230 minors will be arraigned in court Wednesday morning as children in need of care. Police say they will also charge the owner of the disco as the Liquor Act prohibits admission of minors into any establishment selling alcohol. The OCPD added that the parents of the minors, once they present themselves to the court, may also be fined for allowing their children to enter the bar and supervised.
Na Mungu atubariki. Hata ikiwa pombe hiyo itaambiwa tukunywe. Watoto ni wetu tumezaa. Kabisa. Note Mungu abariki askari. Leo Mashujaa Day. Askari wameonekana.
Sasa tunashinda watoto wa shule wanakuja kunywa pombe, wanaenda mandanguroni kufanya vituko ambazo hakifai. Hiyo lazima ikomeshwe.
Those arrests, of course, follow a similar incident not more than a month ago in Eldoret, where minors were also nabbed drinking, bringing a spotlight on parenting. We're taking a short break right now, but I want to remind you of our top story, which you can see on our Superwall today. The National Police Service of Kenya has released names and pictures of these 5 Kenyans they say are wanted over links with Al-Shabaab. They include Shamim Wanjiru Hussein, Omar Patroba Juma, who's said to be Shamim's husband. There is also Anwar Yogan Mwok, who is a former footballer, by the way, and also Ramadan Kioko as well as Omar Witi. Police say they are all in Somalia but are planning to sneak back into the country to plan an attack. They're saying they might get in touch with their friends and family in Kenya, so be on the lookout for them. That is coming out of the National Police Service of Kenya in their war on terror. We're taking a short break right now on KTN Prime, but do stay with us. We have more coming up for you after the break. We welcome you back to KTN Prime. Thanks very much for staying with us. The search for unity on the African continent has been one long journey, from the Organization of African Union, OAU, to the current African Union, the AU. Leaders on the continent have over the years adopted different approaches in the search for African unity. But amid changing strategies that saw OAU's transition to the AU, one thing has remained constant: the emblem, which was designed as the first symbol for the OAU and which was retained by the AU. But did you know the brains behind the emblem of the continental body is a Kenyan? Meet John Mudasia, the man who designed the OAU's emblem and flag 46 years ago.
It is the maize harvest season for farmers in Tongaren, Bungoma County. With the maize out of the fields, it is time to shell it, a technique John Mudasia appears to have mastered. But Mudasia is not your ordinary village retiree. 45 years ago, he earned himself a place in African Unity history books. When the Organization of African Unity, OAU, was established in 1963, Mudasia was only 20 years old. OAU would take some time to put structures in place. In 1969,
wagatangaza the logo for OAU on the name of African Unity, flag and logo.
By then, Mudasia was working in Nairobi for commercial and industry designers. He decided to give it a shot.
Mimi mwenyewe nikajitahidi. Nikapata rangi ndogo, nikuuliza maswali tu. When the OAU was formed, whatever it is, nikaambiwa.
Little did he know, luck was on his side.
1969, December 31st, ndio kapata information is I'm the winner. Sikuamini kwa sababu artists ni wengi. Artists walikuwa wengi sana, designers ni wengi sana. Mimi niingia tu ndani kama mchezo.
He beat over 100 designers from around the continent when judges picked his design, an emblem with a circle, palm leaves on each side of the circle, the map of Africa inside the circle, and interlocking rings at the base of the emblem. The emblem would form part of the OAU flag, which had green and gold bands with the emblem in the middle against a white background. Mudasia traveled to the OAU headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he explained the thinking behind his design.
What it is, circle, the whole world, Africa ndani yake is the Africa we are fighting for. Within the circle, there was red circle, that's the bloodshed. Matawi ni peace.
Then, only 27 years old, he got a chance to rub shoulders with leaders from around the continent and also received his prize.
The prize for it was $7,000. Whoever presented that check to me was Selassie himself.
32 years after the OAU adopted Mudasia's emblem and flag designs, the OAU was disbanded and the African Union was launched. But even with the transition, the continental body retained the emblem and flag. The AU was, however, to change its flag through another competition announced in 2007, which attracted 106 entries. The AU adopted its current flag in January 2010. The flag contains a green background symbolizing hope and gold stars representing member states.
Up to now, people are calling me hero. Baga wa leo, hata mtu akiniona, he's a hero. They didn't expect anything from my own area. I didn't kujua.
Mudasia claims he had been promised a scholarship after winning the competition, but it remained just that, a promise.
So up to now, I don't know who went for scholarship, my scholarship, up to now.
But he remains proud of himself. The emblem he designed 46 years ago has largely remained the same. The unmistakable symbol of peace and unity, Africa's wealth and bright future, its hopes and aspirations, and the blood which was shed in the struggle for liberation. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
A Kenyan Mashujaa making history beyond Kenya's borders. Let's stick with the heroes for a moment. The independence struggle has largely been credited to the Mau Mau. But there were those who stood up to the British colonial masters even before the state of emergency was declared. Elijah Masinde was among the very first. We now go back in time to tell the lesser-known story of a man from a small Bukusu village, Kimilili, in Bungoma County, who wanted the British colonialists to leave and for Africans to worship their own God.
In 1943, colonial Kenya, a man and all-star football player barely 35 with the name of a biblical fiery prophet begins a movement, Dini ya Msambwa, which in English means the religion of ancestors or departed spirits. He believed that God visited him from Sayoni, Mount Elgon, to inform all the Bukusu people to believe in the spirit of the Musambwa, not to wear the clothes of the Europeans, to hate the Europeans, and at the end of the world they would enter heaven. Over the years, he drew support from many ethnic groups in Western Kenya, Nyanza and beyond, the Abaluya, Suk, Turkana, Samburu, Teso, Gusii and Nandi. His influence spreads further to a number of areas in eastern Uganda, including Bumbo, Bulucheke, Bupoto and Mbale. His name, Elijah Masinde. The struggle for independence in the British East African Protectorate that came to be known as Kenya is largely accredited to the Mau Mau. But they were not the only ones who fought for independence. In this shrine lies Elijah Masinde, a man born in 1908, and he was among the very first to stand up to the British colonial government and say, enough. During the colonial period, members of his sect refused to cooperate with the colonial government policies, whether it was agricultural innovation or recruitment for the Second World War. They harassed settler farmers with strikes for better pay and working conditions, go-slows and absenteeism from all things Western, and threatening letters ordering them to get out of Kenya. Masinde believed that by worshipping the spirits of their ancestors who had died so valiantly taking a stand against the British, the Europeans would be driven away from the land. Their struggle was largely unarmed, but in 1948, even before the state of emergency was declared, the government proscribed the movement, now of thousands and more politically subversive. Richard Wafula Elijah Masinde is 73, the eldest son of Elijah, and he holds on to his father's flame. He is the custodian of the shrine in Kimilili, Bungoma. He says the British robbed his father the privilege of watching his son become a man.
Kweli waliua watu wake Malikisi. Wakati alitoka huko akarudi Chetambe, akasema sasa watu wangu walikufa Chetambe kwa vita hii, na sisi tutafanya nini? Na Mungu wewe mwenyewe ulimtuma. Sasa huyu mtu anatakiwa afungwe. Wakamchukua wakampeleka korokoroni. Wapeleka yeye Masari, wakasema huyu mtu wa simu. Yeye si mtu wa simu kwa sababu aliitwa na Mungu.
James Bandi Shimanyula, a historian chronicling the history of the Musambwa, says many of them were looked down upon because of their conscience in Musambwa and of their refusal to renounce Masinde and their God Were.
Sikukuwa ati yeye ni Mungu. Yeye Mungu alimutuma. Tena yeye sikupakania ati yeye apate uhuru. Yeye alitaka apate uhuru wa Afrika wapate uhuru wenyewe wawe wakubwa.
In 1961, Elijah Masinde was released to a hero's welcome. Masinde Muliro, one of the first Africans to be elected into the African Legislative Council, was chief in that campaign. He desired to unite Kanu and Kadu, but as independence was drawing near, regions that were his stronghold also began to turn against him. 1963, his dream of independence was realized, but soon the shiny freedom he always believed in rust before his very eyes. October 25, 1968, his movement was proscribed and declared dangerous to the good government of Kenya. June 1972, a Kitale court sentenced Masinde to a 6-year imprisonment for being a member of an unlawful society, a hardcore criminal. He was released in 1975. To the years following and to his death, due to illness in 1987, he remained a central figure, revered, and his sect at the same time followed and shunned by many. His followers believed he could prophesy and that he had powers to heal and point out witches.
Alikuwa na ujungu. Mtu kama unakufa alikuwa na ujungu. Jasi ilitoka kama machi. Alikufia kwa miguu yangu.
He lies here in this shrine, and many come to pay homage to a man who just wanted the British to go away and freedom. But his family says Masinde was betrayed by all the governments that came after independence, that they never accorded him the honor and status he deserved as a hero. Living in abject poverty, they wonder why Mau Mau fighters are helped in all possible ways, but Musambwa leaders are poor with low education.
Sisi atakipata kitu chochote ati wamesaidia Elijah kama alipikania uhuru. Hata ngali tunalia. Watu walinyang'anya mashamba yetu hii. Watu walirudia kwa sababu walikuwa hakuna baba, mama, sasa mama atafanya nini?
Babu yangu ni shujaa kwa sababu sisi tunaamini alikuwa anafanya kazi kwa watu, watu wanakuwa kucha pamoja na sisi.
Though he worked hard towards freedom, he is largely unknown now. His followers continue to fan his flame, a candle that was blown out, but his fire, they say, will never be put out. Dorcas Wangira, KTN News, Kimilili, Bungoma County.
As the country marked a day that honors those who struggled for Kenya's independence, many Kenyans across the country have decried the trend of governance in the country. KTN's Sharon Mamanyi with a look at the ordinary citizen's take on this day.
That there is little to smile about on this Mashujaa Day is the view of many Kenyans, from increased cases of corruption to dissatisfied public workers, concerns on cost and accessibility of public health care, high cost of living, and you name it. In fact, the cry is that somebody needs to stand up and be the country's hero.
Zamani tulikuwa number 1 kwa maendeleo. Sasa tumekuwa tena number 1 kwa corruption. Sasa sisi wananchi wa kawaida ule na survive na 100 kwenda chini. Tukiona hivyo, roho zetu hata zinatoka kwa serikali. Hata inafika mahali tunasema heri tungewachiwa Nyayo.
The speech is well placed. When you listen to it, you see things are going to work. But in terms of the real expenditures that we see, especially the current one that we have, the budgets that are being presented and what we're being told that is going to be spent on El Nino, just tells you what kind of situation we are in as a nation.
Walimu wamekosa kulipa walimu. Sasa kila mtu anajitetea kwa uchaguzi ya 2017. Pesa yote wamekusanya yote. Kila mtu anajitetea kuficha pesa.
With many fingers pointed to the government criticizing its stewardship of the country, yet others feel that some of the country's challenges are not directly a matter of governance.
Pesa kutumika vibaya, hiyo ni kawaida ya wananchi. Sababu hakuna wakati hawawezi watu hawawezi kuridhika wote.
Lakini katika kuwapa muda, itabidi generation iliyoko kwa sasa ipotee, generation itakayokuja ndio itaweza kuelewa zaidi mambo yanavyotakiwa.
But away from public sentiments and to facts, the country is currently undergoing a financial crisis so bad that parliamentary staff have gone for months without pay and critical parliamentary operations almost grinding to a halt. The quality of education has been jeopardized by endless squabbles between teachers and their employer, TSC. Same case for health workers who have been calling for the reversing of the health sector to a national function. Cases of diseases such as cancer and kidney failures are on the rise, yet treatment for these diseases are almost inaccessible and very costly. These Kenyans are not celebrating.
National government ingechukua mambo ya hospitali irudisha kwa national government itoka kwa county, migomo zingesha. Second thing, right now government hospitali hazina madawa, hospitali hazina facilities, so vitu kama hizo zingerudishwa kwa national government ingekuwa fadhali.
Vijana waangalii, hawana kazi, inafanya paka vijana wameingia uhalifu na madawa ya kulevya.
Pia security pia tunaomba pia kutakuwa sawa, kwa sababu pia kuna challenges, wizi imekuwa mingi mtaani, lakini najua sasa hii mambo itakuwa tu sawa.
As such, as Kenyans look back and celebrate heroes, they hope to look at their present day and afford a smile. Sharon Mamanyi, KTN News.
Alright, so I just want to read some of your feedback regarding our stories tonight. Amatikide Murunga on Twitter. You say, excellent story on John Modasia. Now that is a hero. That story really warmed my heart. We're glad you loved that story, featuring our heroes on this Mashujaa Day right here in Kenya. But we want to take a short break right now. We will be focusing on Tanzania that goes to the polls on the 25th, which is just this Sunday. We'll be focusing on the education sector, so don't go too far. Welcome back to KTN Prime this 20th day of October, Mashujaa Day here in Kenya. We want to take you now to Tanzania, which is just 4 days to Election Day. And one of the key issues of the 2015 election has been education. A study by Twaweza East Africa has shown that the Jakaya Kikwete administration embarked on a huge expansion of the education sector, spending an average of 18% of the national budget on education. The government abolished school fees in public primary schools, leading to an increase in enrollment from primary school all the way up to university. However, as KTN's Ben Kitili found out, talking to education experts in the East African nation, that is not where the story ends.
The state of the Tanzanian education sector has been a key issue in the ongoing election campaigns. The various presidential candidates have made major promises to improve the quality of education if elected into power.
Kipaumbele cha kwanza elimu, kipaumbele cha pili elimu, cha tatu elimu.
The abolition of school fees in public primary schools in 2011 saw an influx of pupils in schools across Tanzania. This in turn meant that the teacher-to-student ratio went down rapidly. The government, however, embarked on a massive expansion of the sector, almost doubling enrollment in public primary schools and employing more teachers, partly solving the problem.
This government has managed to recruit teachers massively. So the average teacher-student ratio in this country, ideally should be 1 to 40, 1 to 45, primary and secondary education. But actually we're talking about about 50.
And despite the abolition of school fees in primary schools, indirect costs still remain. These are things like school uniform, textbooks, and lunch for the pupils. This has affected mostly basic education.
Wenyewe wanakuambia watoto darasani ni wengi. Kwa hiyo mwanao hataelewa. Kama utaki wewe mzazi wewe mwenyewe. Sisi hatukulazimishi.
According to a survey by non-governmental organization Twaweza East Africa, only 1 in 5 children in the 3rd year of primary school has acquired literacy and numeracy skills expected of them at that stage.
Our teachers are fairly highly qualified, meaning that almost most of them, they will have diploma plus qualifications. The trouble is that our teachers are among the teachers in Africa who are seriously demotivated.
The issue of the languages of instruction in Tanzania's education system has been a point of debate here for more than a decade. Another survey by Twaweza has showed that 89% of parents say that their children found it difficult to switch from Swahili as a medium of instruction in primary school to English in secondary school.
What is the solution? Some people give you a shortcut solution, which is, well, abandon English and adopt Kiswahili throughout the education system. Some people say, well, we have to invest in terms of teaching our children English, teaching our teachers and our children good English so that they'll be able to teach in our secondary education.
The positive in Tanzania's education story is higher education, which has grown extensively in the last 5 years.
We had only 26 universities by then, but now we are talking about 52 universities. We have increased the number of higher education students from just about 50,000, and now we are talking about more than 200,000 students in our universities and higher education colleges.
Education experts have, however, lamented that despite the relatively huge improvement in education quantitatively, the quality of education has taken a hit, shown by decreasing pass rates. The government's response has not impressed them either.
The government was first to change the grading system because the education system was not performing. So instead of improving the education system, the government decided to change the grading system. In a way, they were trying to cheat around the system.
Tanzanian law does not recognize the right to education as a basic human right, but as a fundamental objective and issue of state policy. Over the last 5 years, the government has invested massively in expanding the education sector, but experts say that has been counterproductive and more still needs to be done, starting with the law. Ben Kitili, KTN News, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
I want to remind you that we will have full rolling coverage of the election in Tanzania on Sunday. So please do stay with KTN News to get the whole story of the Tanzanians as they decide their future on October the 25th. We want to stay with matters education. In Kenya and Africa in general, access to computerized or digital education is still a dream for millions of children. However, Kenya is championing the role of designing both hardware and software to suit children in both rural and urban areas. On this week's edition of Texpo, KTN's Joy Dorinbira visited Brick, an ICT hardware company that has developed localized digital content for school-going children across Africa to allow them to learn, play, and grow.
Kenya has positioned itself as one of the powerhouses of innovation on the African continent. The iHub in Kenya is making headway in proving that Africa can build problem-solving technologies for global use.
This M-Farm that also went through the M-Lab, East Africa, that also now are mostly in Kenya, but might actually consider expanding outside the country. Obviously, BRIC started out here as part of Ushahidi, but they're part of the larger ecosystem.
BRIC, being one of the latest technologies to come out of the iHub, is an ICT hardware company built out of the need to provide resilience in the face of disruptions.
When you have a power cut, you want to be able to still be able to process payments, and you want to still be able to get data from your systems.
Designed locally in Kenya by the engineering team, manufactured in the United States, tested and approved in Kenya, BRIC is arguably the perfect fit for Africa's hard conditions.
So we've shipped to 47 countries and have gotten lots of pre-orders of some of the newer work that we're working on right now.
The BRIC, which simply put is a backup generator for internet users, is now complementing the latest technology the company has released. BRIC Education Kio Kit, tablet-based digital classroom powered by the BRIC, which in this case acts as a server and router for the content loaded on the tablets.
Ilimu is one of the startups that have come out of the iHub. And when they were testing the tablets where they have localized content for children, one of the headmasters at a nearby school in Dagoretti said, our problem is internet. And so we were already working together with Ilimu to figure out how to solve for problems in the education field.
When fully charged, the tablets give 8-hour uninterrupted usability and currently being disbursed with fully loaded content suitable for children.
Children are not able to access any other information except that has been loaded onto the tablets, which is advantageous in that it saves children from access to destructive information that can be accessed by any other internet service provider.
And how affordable is it for schools, we ask?
When it's priced at $5,000 US, a school can purchase a whole kit, which comes with 40 tablets, 40 custom headphones, a BRIC Pi, which provides the connectivity, the computing, and 40 tablets. With this whole kit, and it's put in a ruggedized plastic case that can be wheeled into a classroom.
As the government of Kenya looks to digitize education for school-going children, the solution to the laptop project may not come from abroad, but from local innovators.
Ultimately, moving manufacturing to Kenya of these kits and devices will help to lower the price of the tablets and the kit in general, and also of the BRIC.
These two technologies were designed in Nairobi and manufactured in the United States, but have been specifically designed for hard-to-reach areas. Say in an area where you're not able to access the internet, the BRIC saves you a lot of trouble. Joy Dorinbira, Texpo.
We're taking a short break right now on KTN Prime, but the sports news is up next, and we continue with our spirit of celebrating our Mashujaas, Joe Kadenge and Coach Bobby Ogola. All the details with Lynn Mashujaa in the sports news after this break.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to tonight's edition of KTN Sports. I'm Lynn Washira, and I do hope that you've had an awesome Mashujaa day wherever you have been. We kick off the bulletin on our heroes, a note where former Harambee Stars legends Joka Denge and Bobby Ogola were among the Kenyan heroes invited to mark the 5th Mashujaa Day at a colorful ceremony held at the Nyayo National Stadium. However, even as the Stars appreciated the recognition, they called on the government to take care of its heroes and heroines.
Kubali, si ndio nakwambia, mtu alifikiria na akasema si watu wa maumau peke yake, hata wale ambao wamefanya michezo kukimbia na kucheza ball tena ni mashujaa. Hata mtoto mdogo ambaye ana akili tofauti kutoka kwa wengine, yeye ni shujaa. Kwa hivyo tunasema serikali ituangalie na hawa mashujaa namna gani. Unajua sasa mashujaa ni wazee sana. Kama
pia ni nafasi nzuri ambayo unapewa na Mungu, lakini ukishajitolea jasho kwa nchi yako, pia nchi yako ikukumbuke kwa namna hii ama ile, ili maisha yako isizorote.
27-year-old Samuel Ekiru and 33-year-old Joyce Nyeruri are the overall winners of the second edition of the Tour de Machakos. Samuel Ekiru of Kenyan Riders won the race in 6 hours, 55 minutes and 55 seconds to win the men's category. In the men's category, Suleiman Kangangi came in second after 6 hours, 56 minutes and 28 seconds, while Josephat Gidambo came in third. Davidson Kamau emerged victorious in the veteran category after clocking a total of 7 hours, 12 minutes and 45 seconds, while Jasper Fielder came in second after 8 hours, 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Lady winner Joyce Nyeruri clocked 8 hours, 33 minutes and 10 seconds in the 4-day event that covered 279.7 kilometers to take home the Kenya shillings 250,000.
We leave it at that. KTN Prime tonight, this Mashujaa Day celebrating Kenya's heroes. We thank you so much for your time. Thanks for your feedback, and thank you for watching KTN Prime tonight. Please do stay with us on KTN News because Linda Ogutu is up next with World View. Good night.